per usual, welcome. It's our team meeting. What month are we in? June? We're almost in July, you guys.
Don't say that.
Okay. Okay, don't say that. But we're gonna start out with bucket fills. So what do we got? What are good things that are happening? What are some bucket fills? I know there's a lot of good things because I'm watching everyone on social media, so you can't lie to me about that, unless those are lies.
Bucket fill, Derek.
Derek, where is he?
You never know where you.
Miami.
I don't know. No.
Got it. What are we bucket filling Derek for?
Because after all this time, he's still giving me tricks.
Previously on the affair. Noah, need you. Excuse us. Oh, please don't steal her data.
Perfect.
I bucket filled it.
I did. I heard that, and I hope he heard it. If he's online, is he online?
No, he's on the phone.
Here in a minute.
Okay, we'll tell him about it. All right. What else? What else we got?
Danielle just got married.
Danielle just got married. That's a huge bucket. Like that's like a huge thing. What else? What else we have?
There's a slide coming up of the barbecues today.
There's the barbecues today. This is correct. I know there's other good things, you guys. It just changes the vibe if you share something good. I promise. We're almost done with CE season.
Oh, yeah.
Are we though? That's such a great point.
It just restarts in July. Get it done early. That's what I learned.
Really, Chris? We just talk about not saying July, and you're like, oh, just restart for the next year. All right, what else we got? What other good thing? Anything? Anyone doing anything fun this weekend? I feel like I'm talking to my children right now. How was school? It was good. Was math class good? Again, I think I bucket fill the leadership team often. However, I don't know if we all realize all the things that the leadership team does. You know, Jeff and Heather and Katie and Lydia. There is a lot that they do behind the scenes to make sure that not only this office runs, but everyone else's business runs. There are times where we get, you know, they get text on Saturday or I don't know the answer to it and I have to disrupt them on a weekend. So they do a ton. So at any point in time, you know, walking past the front desk or their offices, just always remember just to say thank you because they do a lot of hard work each and every day, weekdays and nights and weekends, even when you're not supposed to. So thank you. Thank you. Rick, do you have anything good happening?
Sure, we got lots of good stuff.
What do you got?
Well, if all goes well, we will close in July, what we closed in January, February, March, and April.
Wow.
Hold on a second. Like you're closing as much in July volume wise or units wise or both?
Well,
In 1 month that you did
They
in 3
count
months?
units, so volume.
Okay.
Yeah, both me and Sherry will be closing in July, what we would have separately, we'll be closing in July, what we closed total in 4 months, so. Things are turning a little bit, thank God.
What
Slow
changed?
start.
What changed? Is it higher price point or is it more buyers and sellers going under contract? I mean, that's a pretty bold.
A good amount going under,
uptick.
good amount going under contract, I think,
Okay.
you know, we had to get past the insanity of things slowing so fast, you know,
Okay.
it was such a concern for the rise in interest rates and then the stock
Yep.
market at the same time.
Yep.
And now it just feels as though, and a lot of these transactions came together last week. You know, my closer was going out of town next month, and she's not now. So she just said, I can't even believe what happened last week, you know, and so I think what we're seeing and what we're talking to the buyers and sellers about is things are getting to a little bit more of a fair playing field.
Okay.
You know, I listed a house on Lake Riley and it sold in 4 days with 1 offer. Is that extraordinary or what? I haven't said that this year because I should have said I listed a house on Lake Riley and we had 7 offers and I sold it in 2 days.
Yeah.
But it sold for a full price 1 buyer. I listed one in Roseville at like $375, one buyer, full price. So it's just giving us this indication that the market's.
We're gonna go, yeah, we're gonna go into that too, a little bit later after we go through some slides, because I'd be interested in your opinions on that, on what's going on with the shift, how that looks, and I have some just stats of what's went on today versus the last 7 days, and would like to see how you guys feel about the market. All right, any other bucket fills or things that are good?
Yeah, I'll bucket fill Katie because she kept on emailing me about CE and it was really helpful.
So Katie has put everybody on a smart plan if their CE is not done, which there are still quite a few people CE not done. I would not say that I am one of them. But she just wanted to keep that going, right? Because as we're busy with work and everything else, that kind of goes by the wayside, and June 30th comes and goes. And then in case you guys are not aware, you actually cannot do real estate once you don't have your CEs and your license is renewed. So there are a fair amount of people right now, this doesn't mean to be the Debbie Downer right now, but that do not have their CE and they're going to lose it on July 1st. And they will not be able to do real estate in this office until we reinstate their license. And these are people that are actually doing business. So if you have any concern that that might be you, let us know.
Transfer to the broker.
And that, yes, and honestly, if you're negotiating or doing any PAs, that's going to be a huge problem for your license. So, correct. You don't get paid on current transactions if your license is not instated. So, you've got 48 hours, a little less than that, to figure it out. So, and if not, Katie's like, no, the ship sailed already. Well, at least to get them done and then get reinstated. All right, moving on. Katie, do you want to introduce?
We have a featured vendor today, Kirk,
Hello.
joining us with Brookside.
Hello.
Hello.
Up front,
Go
or-
ahead, take that over.
Good morning, folks. How is everybody this morning?
Good.
Awesome. I promise I'm not a nut that I hit my hockey puck back in college.
Oh, no.
I want to put that out there. Yes, my name is Kirk Ostrom. I'm owner and operator of Brookside View. Do photography and videography. I do in-tour home videos as well. So I thought I'd reach out and just try to get out there, get some exposure, meet and greet, and if you guys have any listings, and just try to keep getting out there. It's really what it's about. So there's I'm based out of Minneapolis here, the West Metro. My website is Katie will
Scroll through here.
put it on after. With all my, didn't have time to do, a video, so you guys can check it out.
But thank you so much for bringing these lovely bagels today.
Absolutely.
And then your information is in the back as well. Is that
Yes, I
correct?
have flyers, cards, and stickers. So, and this is my first time doing something like this. So.
Okay. Awesome.
Good.
Well, introduce yourself afterwards and,
Yeah, me too.
yeah.
And I want to end on this. This is kind of my slogan I came up with. Because anytime I'm out and about, I'm doing this. People are always like, "Oh, that's unreal." I'm like, "No, it's not. It's real. That's me." First I do. So, any success I've had, it's just been through being original and just doing it. So, I'm gonna kind of stick with it and just keep doing me and see what happens. So,
Awesome.
yeah. Go ahead. Depends on the job, I suppose. How many photos, videos. I can do anywhere from a day, a week to 3 weeks. I'd probably say, if I'm real quality, probably 2 weeks, 2 or 3 weeks. But I can get something out to you, maybe with a day or just depends. Yeah, thank you for having me here, and I'll be here throughout the meeting if you guys can fire away questions after. So.
Awesome. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Jacob. Where'd you go? Oh, he's right here. I was like, hi, Jacob, where'd you go?
I was on a field trip in high school once, and I was referred to as a groundhog because I just kept popping up.
Like,
Like I was just like,
Well, and then I panicked.
pictures, and then run away. My friend's like, "Where'd you go?"
I was like, I can't do the text.
Do we have the other side? Sweet, perfect. Okay, so.
I'm really excited about this,
Yeah.
by the way, and this came about in a coaching session that you and I had. And it started because you were at a restaurant or talking to someone and you were like, how do you get their contact information?
Yeah.
That's kind of how this all started. And I think a lot of people are in that situation where you're like, okay, I'm really good at like handing a business card out, but how do I get their information? And somehow we came up with this.
Yeah, so this is just a really, really simple step-by-step thing for creating a QR code for your KW app. So there's that consumer app. There's the two apps you can use on your phone. There's the command app that's like command and accessing your opportunities and everything from your phone. And then there's the consumer app that shows you, just like Zillow would show you any homes, like it's for consumers to access. And what you can do really, really simply, I haven't cleared this to anyone yet, but I'm going to do it anyway. I'll be sending out an email with all this information later today. And link just so it's super easy for you guys. It's just a 3-step process of making a QR code for your KW app. So whenever you're doing a client event or an open house or anything like that, you could just print out a sheet with it, and then anyone who wants to look at homes can go in, scan it, and then it'll prompt them, it'll take them directly to the page and app, or get into your app, your KW app, and have it be all linked to you. And the really useful thing there is they scan it, it goes straight to the store page on the App Store, they download it and make an account, and then you immediately get all their contact information in command. And if you have command mobile downloaded on your phone, it gives you a push notification. The second someone scans it, goes in and logs in, you get a notification that says, oh, hey, Heather Knudsen created a contact. And you can tap on it, add them to Smart Plans, give them a call, check their info, everything like that. And it's all just like automatically done. And the only setup you have to do is go in and create it here. So I'll be sending out an email later. All it is literally you go into command and you find the app URL that should be there. And then you go to that website, which has a really silly name, but it's the best QR code. QRCodemonkey.com is the best website I found just for ease. And I'll be linking that in the email I send out. And then all you do is you add in a link. You can customize it and add in your logo. You can see it from the today that actually works. I don't know if it works with the resolution. You can scan it right now.
I just did it.
Yeah, it works.
Yeah, it worked.
They're like, oh, look, we got a new applicant. Right?
And it takes you straight into it, and then you can just customize a little bit, and you just press the green button for done, and then the blue button to download. So, yeah, I'll be sending that out later today with like all the links and everything. But if you have any questions about it or anything else, always feel free to ask. Just something useful I found that figured people could use.
So who would feel comfortable, like how many times are you in a setting, especially summer, you're at events, you're somewhere and they're like, oh, what's the market like? Oh, I'm thinking about whatever, but I always look at Zillow. What do you think? If you just had this on your phone, in your wallet, like the wallet place or whatever, and they just scanned this, would you feel comfortable being like, hey, if you ever want to know upstate housing, just click on this app and then have them actually scan that? Do you feel comfortable doing something like that? And is that a lot easier than being like, hey, what's your email and your phone number? Let me send you some houses, right? Because then that all of a sudden becomes, everyone does this. You go to a restaurant now and they don't even have menus. Like you click on the QR code. So it's normal now to do that. And you can track everything they're looking at. So even when they're like, oh, I'm not really in the market, but if they're going on there every single day and looking at certain areas, you can kind of stalk them a little bit. Like in a good way.
And our consumer app, the KW consumer app is like updated all, it's like awesome.
It's like the MLS, it's like straight MLS essentially.
It's just as good as Zillow, and it's not trying to advertise an agent to you or anything. That's always the pitch I use with people I meet is, hey, this is the exact same information, but you're not getting ads to try and get people to come and like show you houses and yell at you and sell your information. You know, this is just me talking to you directly. And the other good thing is whenever you access their contact in command, if they're looking at homes on the KW app or on your website, it tells you what they're looking at and when you're looking at it. So if you put them on a quarterly smart plan as soon as they get in, every time you call, if you're comfortable with it, you could say, hey, I see you're looking at homes, or you don't have to say anything and you can just know that they are and change how frequently you're calling them and when you're following up. So it can help out with that. But yeah, any other questions about that? Specifically the QR code of the app or anything else?
Back home in Wisconsin, my grandma's neighbor is a real estate agent and he has a QR code on the back of his like car. I've always wondered how many times like someone's actually scanned it, because obviously you're not going to be like trying to scan that while you're driving, but if it's
And also remember seeing
cover.
like either family reunion or mega camp. It was someone from Las Vegas looking for referral partners, and he wore a giant like sandwich board on his body, and it was flashing with lights and had a QR code that says "Scan me and send me your Las Vegas referrals." And
That's
I
you,
was
this
just walking
might
around
be
waving
right?
high with like flashing lights.
You see that?
Yeah.
I don't know.
The other piece of that too is, once you see where they're looking, usually people are looking in a specific area, right? So when you think of like the neighborhood smart plans, they're looking at Linden Hills, right? So then you put them on like the neighborhood watch where they're getting the stats from that neighborhood in an email. So they're looking at it, it has your name on it, then they're getting emails about that neighborhood, like this many sold, this is average sales price. Who do you think they're gonna call when they put those two together? Even if you don't call them, right? Like that is now all of a sudden you're farming via social media.
And we do run the monthly nurtures and database. I've got
Yeah.
it all set up with like everyone has access to 5 to 8 things. And it's sent out once a month. That's really useful too. And that's the thing, is using all these things in them is really when it starts to shine. All of a sudden you have the information from the app and the website, and they're getting the emails from you every month, and you're calling them once a quarter. Then it really starts to shine, and you really start to see the referrals coming more and more from that. And so much of it is automated with them that just things like this. And this is a phenomenal starting point to get someone into it, and then you run your 8x8 for new contacts, and then you throw them on the monthly return quarterly call plan.
Man, I wonder why the desserts just like all of a
I know,
sudden they're like business too long. That's so weird. All right, any other questions?
And if you have any later, I'm literally right there. Even if my door is closed, it's always open. Please come talk to me. I love talking about this stuff. That's not a joke. It's my favorite. So cool. Thanks, everybody.
Oh, I was like, what is this? What is this like? You're like, oh, I'm like looking, I'm like, huh. So we are closed on the 4th of July. So you always have access with your card. You can always come in. Staff will just be gone that day. So any listings will not be getting inputted, or closings will not be getting paid out that day. So you guys can relax, have fun, watch the fireworks, have some barbecues, whatever it is. So upcoming events, we have our block party today after this meeting. We also have social media and branding panel tomorrow here. I will be facilitating that with a few different agents as well as our very own Katie, to kind of talk about do's and don'ts, as well as how to get more people actually engaged with social media, where it's not just like randomly putting information out there. So that'll be tomorrow at 11 o'clock. Okay, you guys, I'm really excited about this. So there's little things in life that make me really excited, and pull tabs are one of them. Okay. So our July and Yeti and pull tabs. Our July listing contest is actually pull tabs. Okay, so you get to earn pull tabs with these 4 things. So you attend a training in person, you get 5 pull tabs. You connect a recruit lead to me. And that's 10. I want to be very clear on connecting a recruit to me. Connecting a recruit to me means that you and I and that recruit are either on a text message or on an email. This is not, I did a deal with Matt Johnson and he was great, right? And the reason I say that is because that call goes very different with them. And it could, and if that is it, just be like, hey, I had a really great transaction and give me an example. So it has to be more than just a name. I want to be able to talk to them on a more relationship level. 15 full tabs are for a submitted signed listing contract. So that has to be submitted to command. And then you get 15. And then 20 pull tabs are you add someone to your downline in the month of July. Okay, what do you do with these pull tabs? You get them, you open them, and then if you have a winner, you get put into one of these categories. So you get the grand prize, you have silver, and then you have additional 10 winners. I don't know how those are divided.
If you get a level 1 or level 2 and you win a pull tab, then you're in the grand prize category. You get a level 3 or level 4, you're in the silver category. And 5 are extra 10 additional prizes. And we'll explain that to you. Like if you pull and you get a winner, just tell us and we'll tell you.
And we'll put you in the right drawing.
What's
Yeah.
Are these custom made pull tabs?
No, oh, man, now I feel like I wish they were. I mean, I could put stickers on them. Okay, so, can I share? We told Jake that we were doing pull tabs and he's like, well, what if they take him back to the restaurant that you got him at and give the cash for them? And I was like, "Jake, you not go to the restaurant and buy all the pull tabs. We just bought them from like a generalized vendor that gives out pull tabs. They're called silver dollar slots. So they're not custom, but do you guys have any questions in regards to that? Great question.
I'm really
Do
confused.
you want to share the prizes? Okay, Heather can share the prizes.
I don't know what they thought.
What did Kaylee just say? What is she into? Pull tabs and Yetis? So you know what the grand prize may be? We're kind of going. We're gonna see the.
Actually, let's ask you guys.
Yeah.
Okay, so I wanted a Yeti theme, right? Because I love Yeti. So I wanted a Yeti cooler, a Yeti bucket, which I don't know if you guys know about the Yeti bucket, but it's amazing. I'll bring one in for you. I have one.
Actually.
The Home Depot bucket, it's not great.
It is not the Home Depot bucket. Do you feel the handle? The handle's better.
So the coolest cooler that I've ever owned is a soft Yeti.
Okay.
It's unbelievable. I've got my logo stitched
Oh, look, there it is.
into the deal.
So that's gonna be the second
And
prize.
It's amazing. The
Yeah.
bucket is amazing. Well, thank you for, by the way, I took a photo.
I want this little stuff.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Okay, so grand prize, we wanted to either do a Yeti cooler or a solo stove. So, we were like 50-50 on our leadership team, and then I got silent because I almost got voted out. And
Maybe we should let the winner pick.
There you go. That too. What do you guys want to do for the grand prize? Let the winner pick? Rick, what are your thoughts on that?
You should take the people who are present and vote.
All right, then let's vote. Yeti cooler, raise your hand.
What are the options?
Or a solo stove.
Solo stove or Yeti cooler for the grand prize?
Solo stove at 95 degrees outside or a Yeti cooler.
You know, Like, do you know the solo stoves that like?
smoke
Oh,
okay.
Yeah.
I want the solo.
You know, revenue will take cash. Straight up cash.
Additional winners, maybe some like gas gift cards.
Yeah, those will be that. Yeah.
87.50.
Okay, so Bethany wins it. I'll buy the cooler off of her and give her cash. Here we are. Okay. Vote. Solo stove, raise your hand. You need to vote, by the way. 1, 2, 3. Yeti cooler.
Be a tie. Be a tie.
So we will have that in person here.
What is it, the cooler?
By probably next week.
How happy are you right now that we just voted?
I'm so happy. I can't even say it. And you guys are all my favorite for voting for the Yeti. All right. We're getting through all this and then we'll get to the kind of meat of the meeting. Mega camp. So we are getting requests to tell the region who is all going to mega camp. So if you are registered, please let us know because there will be a few events that we're doing down there, whether or not it's dinners and get together so that we are aware of where you guys are also staying and when you're flying in. I am going on the 22nd and leaving the 25th. I know some of you are sharing a place with Kevin as well, so I don't know what time frame you guys are getting there.
That's what we're trying to find out. Which nights he has.
I think he has it the 21st through the 25th.
Yes, shots were fired on that one.
He's busy, which is great, but he's not here, so we haven't.
Kevin says I am in, I will create a list of who is in the VRBO.
And how many spots are left?
We need to know what night.
And what night?
Kevin, we need the reservation date.
Is he on
Yeah,
Zoom?
yeah, so you're talking about him on Zoom right now.
Kevin, show up in the office and when do you have the rooms, dude?
Okay, we're gonna let Rick and Kevin figure that part out, but if you are not registered yet for Mega Camp or don't know how to, Please
He's
feel
unmuted.
free. Who's unmuted?
Unmuted. Kevin.
Oh, Kevin, go.
No, I was gonna say, I will get something, I'll get something in the office with the room size and dates and all that kind of stuff. It's for the whole thing, so, I'll get something with Lydia and Katie and we'll put it somewhere where people can sign up for it. How about that?
Kevin, I just want to say that I'm thankful for you that you even reserved this. So thank you for all the information.
Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah.
Because Kevin is cool and he set it up. So
Rick's only going because you're cool.
Oh, awesome. All right. You'll get more out of it than that, but I'm glad that's why you're going.
Awesome. All right. Is that it? Okay, cool. So the rest of this meeting, I wanted to talk about the shift, right? We're all don't want to talk about it, but we all are kind of feeling it right now. There are a few numbers that I wanted to ask you as you're thinking about listings and buyers that are out and about. So how many, who looks at listings each day? Who looks at that? Okay, awesome. Then I'm going to ask you guys this. How many new listings came up today? Like metro wide, when it comes up as like a generalized thing on the MLS.
I don't have mine on the Metro Wide. I have it statewide.
Okay. So 124 listings came up today. There's 26 coming soon. There's 7 that went back on market. How many do you think had a price decrease?
A lot. Well, more than normal.
Mine.
mine's a 60.
Just in one day or in the last 7? Just one day, just one day. So just one day in the set, like Twin Cities area, right? It is 46 price decreases. Yours might be wider, like a wider span, Rick. So when you're thinking of that, there were 46 price decreases and there was 124 new listings. Okay, so I want you to think about these numbers as we keep going forward in the market, what it's going to do for sellers and buyers, how that's going to look when you're negotiating. There were 73 pendings and then canceled and expired. There's 11 canceled today and 19 expired. Do you remember when there was like 0 or 1 and everyone's like, oh, I'm not doing canceled or expired. That's just something I'm not going to get business from because there are none. Okay, that's just today. You think of the last 7 days, there are 292 canceled listings in the last 7 days. There are 136 expired listings. I'm just curious, how many of you are making over 400 contacts in a week? Anyone? Awesome, because here's 400 right here. Where do I find contacts? Where do I find information? Right here, 400 of them in the last 7 days. How many contacts are we making today?
I don't have a barbecue.
How many contacts are we making in a day in lead gen? I'm going to be really hard on this piece because every single one of my coaching conversations in the last 4 weeks has been, I haven't been lead generating. I care about that because if you haven't been lead generating, that means that 30, 60, 90 days from now, we are going to be having a different conversation of, I don't want to be in the business. I don't know where I'm going to get my mortgage payment. Like those are going to be really tough conversations. So I'd rather have it right here, right? So are we making 5 contacts a day? Yes. Okay. 20.
Up until like 30 or 40 days ago, it was like 5 or less. And in the last 30 to 40 days, it's more like 20 plus.
Okay.
As many as I
Okay.
with my current actions.
And why is that? And I feel like I can ask you that because we've had that conversation of where your business is at and why you upped those contacts, correct?
To create new opportunities.
Okay. And I mean, if we look at this, when the last 7 days, there's 2,477 new listings. 2,477 new listings. Okay, there's a ton of agents, right? But have you gotten one of those 2,477 listings, right? And if you have not, there's no shame in that either. Let's talk about, are we calling the right people, right? Are we having the right conversations? And are the scripts who are closing them to actually get the listing signed? Because there's more and more listings coming on the market that we can get market share in. And to be completely honest, this is the time to get the market share. Because if you have the skill set, you are going to be above and beyond most of the agents having these conversations. One, they're not going to be able to sign the listing, and two, they're definitely not going to be able to have the conversation about the last 7 days of 1,245 price drops. So that's almost half of the listings. I'm not saying those specific listings, but half of the ones that went on, ones that have already been on, price dropped. Some people don't even know how to have that conversation because we haven't had to in like 3 years, right? We've never had to use the word price drop, and then that sounds bad, so we say price improvement. We haven't had those conversations, right? This is where I want to ask you guys, when you see those numbers, what are you feeling in the market right now versus these numbers? Because those are two different things, right? Like, what are we feeling? And when you look at these numbers, you're like, oh man, there's opportunity out there. Are we getting our fair share of it?
On the buy side with my buyers, it seemed like it's been a little bit less competitive. Like we were out, I think it was 2 weeks ago, and we were second. And was agent was nice enough to say if something happens, like we're gonna go with you. So
Yeah, I mean, to that point, back on the market, there was 169 back on the market in the last 7 days. So now if there's not as much competition, it's like, oh, I had the inspection, I didn't like this, or we're trying to renegotiate. I wouldn't give up on that piece. I mean, I would say, what, 6 months ago, there was no chance that that was going back on the market, right? It's happening more and more right now where people are, canceling their PAs. What else are people feeling?
I think it depends on the day. Like one day it's like, oh my gosh, there's so much opportunity. This is awesome.
Yep.
Usually those are the days I'm lead generating. And then it's the
Okay.
days that I'm wrapped into BS that I'm like, oh my God, the world's on fire. Like, so just honestly, it's like extremes. It's total extreme. But it's then a really interesting number is if you go back 30 days, how many back on the market? Because that's a direct reflection of when interest rates went up. So how many of those people were banking on interest rates being where they were, and the minute they went up, they no longer could buy the house they were buying, had a financing issue.
I think there's two different conversations in that too, right? So one is what's your priority in the day, right? Because when there's something on fire, we all kind of say, okay, we stop the lead gen, that goes by the wayside, it never gets replaced that day, ever, right? Because now you're on to emails, you're into negotiations, you're into showings, appointments. Okay, so that's number one, is really having a set calendar that you follow, and no matter what, this is your time. Usually within that hour, and let's just say it's an hour, it doesn't even have to be 2 hours, because right now, I don't think most people are even doing an hour. So set it as an hour, maybe start as a half hour. Nothing horrible is going to happen with any of your clients in 30 minutes that you need to respond to them. I can guarantee that. Nothing. There's nothing that's gonna, and if it is, that's like a once in a lifetime horrible thing that's happening, right? Rick.
Well, Bethany has a good point when just the way she described real estate. And I think mindset and self-awareness is important. Raise your hand if you've ever been to Valley Fair or Disney World. Disneyland, Disney World. Okay, pretty much everyone. Okay, if you're the type of person that goes to Disney World or to Valley Fair and goes on It's a Small World, you can't wait to get on It's a Small World, some train that just slowly goes through town, right? And that's your ride. And you're not the type of person who goes right to the biggest roller coaster, or at some point during your visit there, you go to the biggest roller coaster, because that in fact is what this business is, and that will not change. This business is a roller coaster. It's gonna go up. There's gonna be times where you're a little bit scared. It's gonna go super fast. Sometimes it's gonna go slow on the way up. It's an up and down business. And if you don't know that, and you don't have that mindset, and you're not prepared to take the ride, then you have to be careful about what you're doing in the business, because am I right? Is that not how it is constant? And it's just a mindset thing, because that's what, this year has been just a little bit insane when it comes to the roller coaster ride. It's been a little bit faster and a little bit more dramatic than we're used to in the past.
So I think this is important though, right? This is how real estate is. This is how the market can be. We don't control the ride, right? But what we can control is this. This baseline. What is that baseline? This right here is lead gen. But if this is where if this is the lead gen that you're doing, that's the business that you're gonna own. Okay, and I'm gonna tell you that these are really fun. This is super fun, right? And then you go get something big and you go buy a new car or you go on a sweet vacation and then all of a sudden you're here. And it's really hard to get back up to here because right here, your mindset is like, what am I gonna do? Right? I don't have any listings. I don't know who to call. I don't know what I'm doing. I didn't have any closings. So we put ourselves in this emotional state by watching the market if we are not controlling this baseline.
So if you do what we normally do, which is we react to that, we react to the roller coaster and we lead gen at the bottom, we're making that ride even more dramatic because we're waiting, like Derek now, is trying to create some consistency because in the past, he's been able to live a life by design by consistently lead generating through the ups and downs of the market.
Yep.
But the rest of us who are going crazy, flying by the seat of our pants, which there's obviously at least two of us in the room, then what we're doing is at the bottom, we're lead generating, and then we're launching us up to the top and then back down and up to the top. And we're not really doing ourselves any justice.
Well, and here's the other piece. If this is your baseline and it's consistent, right? You can gauge where your results are from this consistency. Okay, so if you do 20 contacts a day for 3 months, and this is where the market is, and you're consistently doing 20 units, right? The market shifts, you're doing the exact same thing, and all of a sudden you're only doing 10 units. What do you know you have to do at that point? You have to make 40 contacts, right? But if this is not consistent, you don't know what to do. You have no clue. And then you're digging. You're saying, how do I get out of this, right? Or where do I go? What's the next thing? Oh, I need a different, I need a real job. You have a real job. You have a real business right now. You just have to take control of this piece. And this is the most difficult part of being in real estate and owning a business is this consistency piece and knowing it and tracking it is what's not going to sometimes make you feel as up and down. And yet at the same time, I know both of you track things and it's still there, but at least you know what you have to do. Right? So you're living in that, but at the same time, you can recognize like, those are the days I'm not lead genning. And when I'm coaching these agents, they know that they've been in the business for a while, but you need the reminder of whatever it is per week, whatever it is per day.
Well, the only way to insulate yourself from that is I've heard the quality of your people. So especially if you have,
Yep.
Quality of your people and the quantity of your reserves. And so can you insulate yourself from the market shifting by having both of those things? And the question I'm asking myself right now is, am I the quality of the person that's going to attract the quality of the talent that I want to be in business with? Because if I'm not lead generating, I can't expect my team.
So quality of people and what did you say?
Quantity.
So I was like,
reserves. Which should actually be super exciting because we know that the greatest distributions of wealth are in down markets, not up. And so it's like, okay, so if I have a crap ton of reserves and I don't need them because I'm consistently lead generating and all of a sudden opportunities present themselves, well, now I can start saying yes when everyone else is scrambling to pay their own mortgage.
so why do you think half of the investors are like incredibly excited about right now? Because everybody else that doesn't think the way that an investor thinks is scared. They're scared because they don't know what to do. Why? Because they don't even know what their like cost of living is, right? So interest rates shifted. if there's one thing you can do for your clients is help them figure out cost of living and what they can and cannot afford on a like larger scale, because most lenders don't go into that detail with them, but this is how you're gonna make a relationship with them, right? Because the time that those interest rates spiked, I've heard it at multiple restaurants. A lot of times we'll go just sit up, have lunch, hear people that are like, you know, whatever talking. And a guy said like 3 days ago, he was with like his buddies. We had an offer on this listing and then the interest rate went up and they were like, we were already at the top of our budget. We can't afford that. So then we canceled the list or we canceled the PA. I wanted to like intervene on this conversation. I did not. I held back, but I'm like, shockingly. But it's like they were at the top of their budget. Why? Number one, like why was that important? Why was it important to be on top of their budget? And maybe there was a reason, location, whatever their needs were. And two, if the interest rate, the way that it went up, made you cancel your purchase agreement because that was outside of your cost of living, there is no way in hell you should have made that offer. Like there just shouldn't have been. And that's on us sometimes to ask the questions so that they're informed. And then we also don't go into those situations with another agent being like, oh, interest rates went up, so we backed out, right? Because that looks bad on us as well, right? Because it's like, we don't know kind of where our clients are at. Would you guys agree with that? So that being said, honestly, how many know this baseline for their business? Okay.
When you say baseline, how many contacts you need a day, whatever. Mine's 10.
Okay. So we've got one person out of this.
I've been hitting 10.
Okay.
Having really good conversation.
Okay, and turning into appointments and turning into, okay. Awesome. Anybody else? 2 people. And this is more of like, let's talk. Let's talk then after this and say, what does it take, right? And we can go all the way into your own cost of living and what are your reserves needed when this market shifts? Because it's better to have those conversations right now before it shifts more, right? Those are real conversations. You might feel vulnerable in it and that's okay. Like, that's okay to feel like, ooh, I might not want to tell everything, but at least let's get to some of it so that I can help. Derek, you were gonna say something.
My business is better when I do 20 contacts a day.
Okay.
Like proven many years, like. it's
How's your
just-
mindset at that piece in that moment?
Well, it's just different because at that point, I'm typically not like thinking about where the next deal is going to come from because there's probably a good list of prospects that I can continue to follow up on that will be transactable business. If I've had the 2 to 4 months of good quality lead up to that of 20 contacts a day.
Are those all new contacts or are you including lead follow-up? in that
The
too?
follow-up is in that too. Yeah. But the reality is that half of them really probably should be true lead generation, like new possibilities. And I mean, I'm the first to admit that's one of the first things to go, right? Is because the lead generation calls, like the true new contacts are not as productive individually as you're not going to have as high of an appointment ratio out of those as you do on your follow-up calls. Yeah. And they're still equally, if not more important, because those are the ones that are going to continue to keep your funnel full the rest of your life or whatever.
So I think that's interesting too. So now we just broke it up into contacts versus what are new contacts to keep your business healthy and growing all at the same time, and then not forgetting about the follow-up. And is that 20 new contacts and 10 follow-up each day? Is it 5 follow-up and 20 contacts? There's no like magic number necessarily for everyone. If you do nothing right now, do 5 new contacts and 5 follow-ups. Heck, do 1. Like celebrate the 1 each day, right? and then add 2 the next day, and then go to 3. It doesn't have to be monumental because it can almost be scary. The reason we're not doing this as business owners is because it's uncomfortable. That's the reason we're not doing it. This is not necessarily the fun part that people are like, ooh, I can't wait to make 20 calls to people and potentially get hung up on and told no. Like, I mean, I actually have fun with that, but most people don't have fun with that.
I'd argue if they don't know what to say.
That too. How do you feel? How, is it that you don't know what to say?
I think that's true.
Good. Yeah.
Okay, because I'm gonna get real frustrated right now. We have someone that is a master scripter. You want to know how many people have been on that call the last 2 weeks? 1 to 2, guys. So if it's not, you don't know what to say, you gotta be on those calls, because you can't say you don't know what to say if you don't show up to the scripting. Okay, this is where it's like it's an action or like a reason or result, right? If the reason is I don't know what to say, Dana Murray kills it on scripts. Like, I mean, she could sell an Eskimo ice, right? Like, I mean, she is amazing. And she is putting her time out there to teach you scripts, to talk through scripts. And when people don't show up to that, especially because she's kind of retired, like this is like she's providing her skill set. You're doing yourself a disservice by not showing up to that, because she will teach you anything and everything you need to know. Would you guys agree with that?
She literally asks you, what do you want to work on? And if she's just an open book.
Yep. And she will do any script you want to. So if that is it, just show up to that. And if you don't want to talk through it, cool. You be the buyer. She'll do it, right? And then you can record it and you can do it on your own, right? Until you feel the confidence of getting there. So especially in this market, she's been through tough markets. So if it's like, I don't know how to talk about interest rates, say, how would you talk about this with your current buyer? If someone asks you this question, what would you say? Record it. Put your phone on, record it, and go through it. Right?
Talked about that yesterday. Talked about how no one knows if interest rates are going to go even higher or if they're going to go lower. But the road that we went down was Terry her client wanted to move closer to her grandkids. And Dana was talking about all these, like, she calls them pain points, like,
Yep.
it's like where the real motivation is. And she said, well, you know, in about 5 years, like, they're going to be teenagers. They're not going to want to hang out with you. Well, I mean, it's kind of summed down and less blunt, but like, they're not going to want to hang out with
No,
you.
that's true.
And basically worked with Terry and talked about, well, wouldn't you rather get into something right now and then you can, you know, refinance when it's a little bit lower, or even feel a little bit better about having a lower interest rate, even if it goes to whatever.
Yeah, and so, I mean, that piece of it, right? So when we talk about all of these things, if it's, you don't know what the activities are, right? Or you don't know what to say, no one's gonna make those decisions for you, right? No one's gonna go to that scripting class. No one's gonna make those calls. That's the beauty of being an entrepreneur and having your own business, is you have to wake up in the morning and be like, what's on my agenda today? Is it scripting? Is it lead gen? What is going to take my business forward today, right? The only reason I get passionate about this is because when I look at numbers and there's, 35% of agents only producing, I want to help the rest of the 65 that are not. Because I know that there's pain points there that unless you open up, I can't help with that. Wendy?
100% of my business so far has come from referrals, and it's all from database. So it isn't only are we calling strangers getting hung up on, it is, I just don't know that many people that are actually consistently every quarterly calling their database and continuing to build those relationships. Because right now I have 5 things going on, and it's all because of relationships and database and continuing to foster those. I have nothing in the last year from any of the cold calling or not.
And can I ask you, when you did the cold calling, it was because there was a little bit of a fear of calling your database, right? Like there was like, you're like, ooh, I don't know what to say, and I'm afraid they're going to think I'm bugging them or whatever. So what since you have so many from referrals, what do you say when you're calling your database?
I could say, hi, I was thinking of you, and here's why, and it has to be for real. I mean,
So you were authentic and actually like caring about your database. So I think that's the difference in calling your database is being authentic, right? Because we all feel icky when we call them and we're like, oh, I was just curious how you're doing. And then all of a sudden it's bam. Do you know anybody that wants to buy, sell, or invest in real estate? Okay, if you can do that script, awesome. But at the same time, you actually have to care about your database when you're calling them. Maybe check on what they're doing, or hey, I saw you were doing this, and show some sort of connection piece. And the reason I asked you this is because I know no matter who you talk to, you know what's going on in their life at some point, or you truly do care to ask what's happening versus just saying it to say it. Rick.
I'm so glad you said that, Wendy, because I wanted to throw in, and this is in support of that, an encouraging piece when it comes to this prospecting and making these calls is that it does get easier, because the more clients you have, the more cheerleaders, and Dana would say this, the more cheerleaders you have saying that this person was fantastic at what they did. Now they're going to move, they're going to transition. It's a lot that happens in their life. And when you reach back out to them a year later, that's when they don't need a reminder. They know who you are. They know what your job is. So I never, ever talk about real estate, ever, when I call my best clients. They will ask me 50% of the time, but they know that, this is what we do. So you make that call. So our number, and I know Jordan and Sherry get upset with me about this, but our number is 5, and I still don't do it. Now, when I do it, then we get a little bit more consistency, and it's because we're calling the past clients. Those clients are then giving us referrals as a result of the reminder that we're still out there, and they then, it triggers in their mind, oh, this is Wendy, the best realtor I've ever worked with, and if you don't remember what's going on in their life, just pop on Facebook real quick, kind of see some new stuff, and then give them a call, but it makes a big difference. And it does get better with every client. Every year you go in this business, you will have more clients to reach back out to that are your referral basis, and it can be amazing. So
I just want to add in too, when you guys are making those calls, especially to your past clients, focus those around the upcoming holidays as well. So call right before July 4th. They're going to be gathering with tons of friends and family. And then when they start talking, if someone wants to move, you can be like, oh my God, I just got off the phone with Bethany. Like, you should call her, because they just had a fresh conversation before you're going into the holidays. Well, and the easiest call right now, this is the call our team's making, is, hey, Katie, it's Bethany Nelson. It's been a while since we talked. I'm sure you've noticed interest rates have gone up, and a lot of people have concerns about that. Do you have any real estate questions I can answer? Everyone is worried. Everyone's getting fed by the media versus you, who is the local real estate expert. It is the easiest conversation, and it doesn't even take that long.
Well, then let's play that out. If you were to call me and someone did have a question, so people were like, well, what do I say then in that situation, right? So if you didn't know what to say, and I was like, yeah, actually I do, how does that affect, my buying power over, previously, where the interest rates were at?
Can I ask, do you know what your current interest rate is?
I don't know, but I just know that it went up by at least like 1.5% or something like that.
Sure. So typically for a 1% increase is a decrease of about 10% in your price point. So if you were previously looking at a $500,000 house and interest rates went up 1%, your buying power just went down by $50,000. Now, Kami, here's the thing that I'm worried about is a lot of people think that is going to ruin their buying power. But actually, did you know that you can buy your interest rate down?
I had no idea.
Yeah, so if you and your,
Does that cost? What does that cost?
I mean, it varies depending on your credit score, and we'd have to speak with one of our local lenders about that. But if you're really considering that, it sounds to me like you're thinking about moving, and we should probably sit down and chat.
Okay. Does everyone feel comfortable with that conversation? And even if you didn't know those stats, right? At that point in time, to veer from that, be like, hey, have you talked to a lender? Because they can tell you all those stats specifically to your particular situation, right? So even if you're like, ooh, I don't know if I feel comfortable saying what you just said, that's a really easy time to refer right to your lender, right? Because they can speak to that on a different level, and maybe each situation of where they're at can be different, and you don't even have to give them like any generalities.
I would argue though, the generalities help, because even when, and I always use things like varies, it depends, like, because I'm not locking myself into a commitment.
Yeah.
And I often, it always makes people giggle, but I'll often say I know enough to be dangerous about lending. And then we'll talk about it, because people's biggest reason they do not buy real estate right now is they think they can't afford it. So if you know enough things, like when I first got into the business, I mastered understanding MHFA down payment assistance. Because if I met someone at a bar, and they're like, I'd love to buy a house, but I can't. Well, why can't you? Well, I only have $2,000 in the bank. Well, if I told you you could buy a house for $2,000 out of pocket, would you buy a house? Well, yeah. Okay, well, let's see if you qualify for an MHFA. Let's get you pre-approved. It works all the time. And let's say they didn't, well, then you add them to your pipeline and they have crap to work on so they can buy next year.
Love it. Jeff, you had your hand up too.
Oh, just with calling your sphere, I talked about with Debbie. Because it does, like if you call genuinely just to check in and then you slide in the real estate stuff at the end, it can throw the tone of the conversation. So Debbie said, well, what if you just flip the script and just came right out with it? Like, hey, really quick, we're having a listing competition at the office. And I just want to know, like, just quick bit of business, like, do you know anyone that's looking to buy or sell real estate? No? Okay, awesome. Well, hey, keep me in mind. Appreciate it. How are you? How's the family? What are you doing for the poor? Whatever. Like, just come, like, it feels, that script feels a lot different if you come right out with it versus just trying to find the right moment in time to slide in the real estate question at the end after you talked about the family and the kids and their travels.
Well, that's another good point. How many people, if their sphere called them and they were starting a business or they're in a business that you know, and they called you and you like them, you trust them, they're your friends, family, whoever it is, do you feel awkward after that conversation if they give you a call? Or are you like, man, I wish I knew someone, or, because my mind goes to how can I help them in any situation? Like, even if I don't know anybody, I wonder what their goals are, or, and you might ask them those questions. Really transparently, who feels awkward after those conversations when someone calls? Okay, so that might be why you also feel more awkward making the call, right? Because you're like, I don't necessarily like those calls.
Well, it's not about the call necessarily. It's more about like the person calling me. Like, I know them from college and I remember them from college and what they were like. So it's like, how do you act when you know, like, that's not someone you would want to work with or trust?
So
That's packed with some stuff. Like, 'cause, I mean, when I think about it, right, like, that's a different season of life, and maybe things changed, right? Which is interesting, because you are like being straight out of college or younger and then going into a professional, anything can be tough.
I would test the waters and do it both ways, because I absolutely despise getting calls from people who are looking for business. I hate it, and that's why I don't bring it into the conversation. However, take into consideration that when you make a phone call to somebody, there's two things that could happen. One, if you present the business aspect and that's something they don't want to hear about right away, they might go into a defense mechanism and you're not going to have a productive conversation because it's going to happen right away. That's possible. Not saying it's going to, it depends on the conversation. You do it at the end, you might have built and reminded them of some of the authenticity of who you are and your character, talking about their family, having that, and then you bring it in at the end. That might work better. I definitely would suggest trying it both ways, because you're going to be really good at one or the other, so.
And you're going to know people too, as you start calling your database more and more, you're going to know how to like maneuver those conversations. Like, ooh, this person likes, they want it to be softer at the beginning. If they're genuinely someone you kind of know their approach or their personality type. Okay.
I do both. A majority of my business is referral based or from my sphere. And I do 4 quarterly calls a year, and sometimes more than that. And I tend to do one where it's just strictly asking for business. And then the other 3 are not asking for business. It's just checking up on them. And it always comes, oh, how's work? Work's been really crazy. And then I might go into that if it comes up. And if it doesn't, then it's just how are you? And it's about them as a person.
So I think what you've heard from everyone is there's a system for everyone that works, right? So you just have to figure out the system. I mean, 1 business call, 3 personal calls. but yet business gets brought up. It usually does. People talk about usually family, business, and travel, or whatever it might be. Hockey maybe too, who knows? But find your system and just make the calls, whether or not it's your database or cold calling, make the contacts, right? So we can go into all of the do's and don'ts, but if you're not doing it at all, make one call today. Just do that and then celebrate that win. All right.
Can I quick share something?
Yeah.
We're calling it our 1,000 dial day on July 13th. It's a Wednesday. So our team will sponsor it. Anyone that wants to participate, there's going to be contests. And we just joined a national organization called Place. It's owned by Ben Kinney. And we have all, what are you looking at me like?
That kid like fully.
I'm allowed to talk about it now.
Okay. I was like, did you see my, I was like, I thought that was a July thing.
The announcement goes out on the 11th, but I can talk about it. So anyway, we'll
You appreciated my whip around on that.
yes, okay. Anywho, so we're doing a big call day. Anyone's welcome. My intention is to at least make 100 dials personally. And the encouragement to everyone on our team is to do the same, and we'd love to have more people engaged. So,
You're doing that here?
yeah.
But we're doing the barbecue that same day. That's perfect. Well,
You take a little break and have a barbecue.
I think what we should do-
During the barbecue.
Well, what we should do is we should have like a contest between all the rainmakers on team.
Maybe don't get to eat
Ooh.
unless you get a certain amount.
I like that.
No food unless you get a
Well, I
certain.
heard that your team is disappointed you're not making 5 calls. So what would it look like if all the rain?
Oh, I love this. I feel like there should be a contest. I feel like we can come up with something.
There's a contest for everyone, but then like up the ante for certain people like Rick and I that.
I just wanted to do like a battle royal between the two of you. Like a cage match.
But I was actually really hoping you would be in there.
I do have a,
Counting on you.
what appears to be a silent business partner back here.
Well, that's because she's watching this challenge happen and she's like, is he gonna do it?
I don't want to be tied into this, yeah.
I know he hasn't committed yet. Come on, Rick.
I'll do whatever.
Was that it? Was that it?
A specific commitment here. Like, what are you gonna do?
What are you looking for? What are you looking for from me?
Maybe
Oh,
what we
be
do
better.
is the people that, the rainmakers put like a certain amount of money in a kitty.
Okay.
And if we don't hit 100 dials or 100 contacts, that kitty gets divided up between a certain group of other people.
100 contacts or dials, because those are very.
They are different
Okay.
contacts, like basically a bold 100.
Old 100 in 24 hours.
Yeah.
Team bold 100 or individual?
No, a rainmaker. A rainmaker. Oh, you totally sharing up.
Great, let's just get a list. Can we get a list of all the rainmakers?
I got that for you.
Yeah, definitely.
I got that
I want
taken
Tony
care
on
of.
this.
Let me know whatever I can do to help.
I mean, I might even throw some fries in there for you guys on my own.
Oh, I can't wait to get Tony's input in on it too. I know.
There was something shared.
I mean, Shane will just be sitting there.
That's
fucking
everyday thing for Shane.
Jacob Roford made the QR code that Jacob Knudsen shared with us today, and he already has a new lead. He posted on social, and he already has a new lead for mine.
Oh, which, by the way, I love your Instagram page. It looks amazing. Or what is it, account? I don't know. I'm not hip. Whatever it is, looks great. That's, okay, so that's been what, 40 minutes? Not even?
He posted that probably 20 minutes ago that he already had a new lead for them.
That's awesome. You guys, it works. Where are you two laughing at over there? My old person joke? Just kidding. All right, let's go to wants and needs so that we can get to the barbecue. What do we got?
I need a one level, I have a client that was paralyzed last year and they need one level living where he can work like move a wheelchair through a property, ideally in the Hopkins, Minnetonka area up to.
Okay. What else we got? Anything? All right. I know that everyone usually sends it in, so just send it in to Lydia and she'll get that out by the end of the day. Otherwise, let's go outside and have some fun.
We're gonna grab some, flyer on the way out.